let's define inflation. It sounds like, gee, everyone knows what inflation is. Actually, no. If you're talking about consumer prices, and that is the definition I use because that's the definition the Federal Reserve uses. And if you're trying to forecast policy, maybe you can disagree with them, but if you're thinking differently than they are, then you're not going to know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing, but you need to know what they're doing. So they look at consumer prices. There are 10 different measures. There's the CPI, CPI core, something called PCE, personal consumption expenditure deflator. We don't have to get too bad. There are 10 different measures, but they're all about prices you pay for stuff. So milk and bread at the store, gasoline at the pump, medical costs, tuition, et cetera, et cetera. That's what I mean by inflation. That's what the Federal Reserve thinks. Now, there is this Austrian School of Economics, and they say they count asset prices as inflation. So stock prices, Bitcoin for that matter, gold, silver, land, et cetera. And they say, look, that's inflation. The stock market's at an all-time high, et cetera. Well, that's not my definition. Now, if you count asset price inflation increases as inflation, then we're sort of talking past each other. Now, I do agree that there are bubbles. I think the stock market's a bubble. I think other bubbles are forming. I certainly think Bitcoin's a bubble, but that's not, and it's kind of, if you want to call it inflation, that's fine. But if we're going to have the debate, I'm talking about consumer prices. Now, when you talk about consumer prices, there is no inflation. It doesn't exist. And immediately someone says, well, I just filled up my car with gas and it was, $3.50. It used to be $2.20. Okay, you're right. But the price of technology, the price of computers, the price of tuition, the price of a lot of things, price of clothing, et cetera, have all come down and continue to come down. So all these indices, they're baskets. It's like, well, you spend a certain amount on clothes, a certain amount on computers, iPhones, tuition, et cetera. And they look at the basket. There's no inflation in the basket. There just isn't. If you want to pick a particular thing, gasoline at the pump is a good one. Yeah, okay, I get it. I put gas in my car, but there's no inflation. There's selective perception. People pick one thing, and again, gas at the pump is real. I mean, like I said, I put gas in my car, and if that's all you're thinking about, but that's not an index. That's one good. Tuition prices are dropping. Healthcare prices are dropping. Clothing prices are dropping. Technology prices are dropping, et cetera. And people ignore all those things like they deserve it, like it's a gift, and focus on the one or two things that are going up. I mean, I'm not making it up to you. I mean, look at the indices. Go to the Department of Commerce in the United States and look at the Bureau of Economic Affairs and look at their PCE core deflator or CPI. They're all going, they're either down or flat. They're not going up. What happened in the second quarter of 2020? The U.S. economy went down 31%. It was the greatest drop since, greatest quarterly drop on an annualized basis in history. And for the year, it was the greatest drop since 1946.
Before we continue, help us by smashing that YouTube like button and subscribe now to this channel. This shows the algorithm that you value the information, and it helps us spread this message. Sharing is caring. Please like and subscribe now. Thank you. And now, let's continue.
So when you have an economy like that, and then you come into 2021, when they measure inflation, what are they actually saying? Well, they have the basket of goods and services, but they're looking at it either month over month, or they're looking at a month year over year. So they're comparing, for example, April 2021 to April 2020. So a monthly data series on a year over year basis. If that's your comparison, yeah, inflation is going to go up, but that's only because the bottom fell out last year. You have to look at the base. In the coming months, you're going to see some upticks in some of those indices. That's true, but that's in comparison with the worst year since 1946. And so that's to be expected. My question is, where are we in the fourth quarter? Where are we in early 2022 rather, when the economy was recovering? For that matter, it recovered in the third quarter of 2020. Those base effects are going to go away. So he's talking about 3 months. The reason is not because prices are skyrocketing. It's because we're comparing it to a collapse.
Moving on to the Federal Reserve, or should I say sticking to the Federal Reserve here, Jim. They discontinued updating their M1 and M2 weekly money supply series. This has been a series in effect since 1970.
Right.
Now, Is this no news or news of significance? And does it show us perhaps a shift in attitude from the Fed here?
I think it's significant. I think it's it's not a fraud, but it's kind of a cover up. Look, there. First of all, those numbers are skyrocketing. M2 in particular is off the charts. It's going up by tens of trillions. So I tend to look at base money, and I understand that base money is not the money you spend. That's what the Fed creates when they buy government securities from primary dealers, and the dealers, which are banks, just give it back to the Fed. So you're a bank and I'm the Fed, and I buy a bunch of treasury notes from you, and I send you the money out of thin air, and you take the money and give it back to me as part of your reserve position. Well, that money didn't help the economy. It went back and forth between us. So the accounting entries, I'm not saying it's irrelevant, but that's not, there's no velocity behind the money at all. Now, M1, that's the money that the banks create when they, you apply for a mortgage and they go, okay, your mortgage is approved, here's the money. They just put it in your account. Again, it comes out of thin air. That kind of money can result in inflation, but it's not. And the reason it's not is because people are saving. And that's what people are doing. They're saving it or they're paying down debt. But when you pay down debt, it's the same as saving. You're shrinking your balance sheet. But what you're not doing is spending it. And that's the key. You can print all the money you want. They have printed all the money they want, but it's not being loaned, it's not being lent, it's not being spent. And therefore there's no velocity and we're not getting the economic growth.
What to do in such a situation? Inform yourself and keep your financial education strong. We from the Compact Group offer our loyal subscribers a free educational portal with first-hand monetary, financial, and economic knowledge. Enter our invite-only Insider Club by clicking the link below. You will get access to first-class information far earlier than the rest. We have prepared a special deal for all our members where you can access a giant pool of Robert Kiyosaki's financial wisdom for just $1. To find out more, simply click the link below and join our Insider Club absolutely free. But there is more you can and should do. Build up several streams of income. More and more people realize that they have to take their future in their own hands, but they don't know how and where to start. We from Compact offer our Insider Club members unique opportunities. Strengthen your financial muscle and get the edge. Click the link below. Become part of our free Insider Club. No financial obligations. But there's one important thing you have to know. You have to become active. So do it now. Become active and see you on the other side.